If you say you gon' do it, get it done. If you say you gon' do it, get it done. If you say you gon' do it, get it done. If you say you gon' do it, get it done. Save your stories, I ain't with the pump.
Hello, this is Jason E, and welcome to the Trading Ascension Podcast. It's 2022, Season 4. This show is for traders focused on creating abundance and achieving self-actualization, life, and trading growth. I deep dive into the personal and the spiritual growth journey towards consistent profitability. This podcast provides thought-provoking concepts, scientific and spiritual data, and always action steps to help you evolve as a human and as a professional trader. If no one's told you today, I believe in you. Yeah.
All right. Well, today we have not one but two special guests on the show. We'll be talking with Jess Fisher and Rob Younkins. We had these guys on the show early season 2, and I'm excited to have them back. Rob has over 7 years of trading experience. Jess is over 2 decades that he's been in this industry. Both of these men are sponsored investors and coaches with the company Terrasoari. Now, if you listen to the first episode, you'll notice that there's a name change. So got a new name. You can check them out at terrasoari.com. And I'll make sure I send some links over in the show notes as well, so you can find these guys. So they're still, with the name change, they're still hosting meetups, still sharing their knowledge. They're still coaching, mentoring, and providing a community where traders can learn and they can grow. So I'm excited to have them on because, again, they're not just teaching and trading themselves. They're supporting other traders. I really enjoy going to their events and just being in the community of traders, which we'll talk about the importance of that a little bit on the show today. So like we hate the drive-through, or like we hate the, I'm forgetting my own intro. All right. So like we hate the drive-through, let's get it in. Jess, Rob, welcome to the Trading Ascension Podcast.
Heck yeah. Good to be here, Jason. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Awesome. We're excited to have you guys here. So a lot's going on in the world, and that's really where I want to start. So much is going on in the world. There's so much information to consume. Some of the information could, some of it may not possibly affect the market. Just in general, what are some generalities of what traders should focus on and what they can't ignore? Let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I'd start off with kind of the old expression, tend to the garden you can touch. So there's certain information that's relevant to your trading or my trading, Jason, or Jess's trading. And there's certain stuff that we really can't touch. And your former guest there, Miss Paula T, she talked about this too. Hey, you can't control all that stuff that's happening overseas. You can't control what the Federal Reserve is doing with the money supply. But what you can control is where your focus and your attention are. And for a guy like Jess or myself or any of the other traders in the Terrasoari community, we focus on the behavior of these stocks and indexes, mutual funds, whatever you want to trade. Focus on its behavior, look for trends and or swings, and just get in, get out using your process for identifying a good trade, a good low risk trade. Really, it's the risk, not the reward, that you need to be focused on. That's the number one thing. So yeah, there's a million different ways to make a buck, and there's a bunch of different markets. You're a futures trader. I trade options primarily. Jess came up as a stock trader and investor. So there's a bunch of different markets and a bunch of different ways to trade, but whatever your system is, focus and whittle it down to only what's relevant for you to make those 2 key decisions for a trading business: when to enter and when to exit. And that's as far as you need to take it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
To his point, and it kind of adds a layer to it, is lots of times people are looking at the news, or they're looking at what analysts say, or they're trying to hedge their bets based on geopolitical forces, which may actually be already baked into the current market conditions, or it is something new, like a black swan event, where that does cause a huge shift. But at the end of the day, neither Rob or I decide to enter or exit based on any of that criteria. It's really being able to trust the tools that you use, the tools that have actionable intel, so you can be consistent over time instead of having to shift the waters based on, what, back in the day, what Trump tweeted. That doesn't allow for consistency. having the right tools that provide you actionable intel that you can trust and be consistent with is what we have found to be the most successful as far as where our focus is or where our focus goes on our go, no-go criteria as far as managing risk.
Awesome. Yeah, and that definitely helps narrow it down. Like I said, with so much noise going on. And I'm glad you mentioned tools, because I'm definitely excited to show all the Trading Ascension listeners some of the tools that you guys have. So I guess my next question, building off of that focus, what would you all say are great parameters for traders who need to determine on a day-to-day basis when they should sit on the sideline because what's going on, or when they should actually, go ahead and play that day?
Yeah, well, we're both in the stock and options markets for Jess and myself, and most of the members of Terrasoari are as well. So it goes back to the old Wall Street adage, the trend is your friend. So it starts with what the overall market is doing. If the overall market's going sideways and flat, doing this, what we call a crab kind of behavior, because crabs walk sideways, it's neither bearish nor bullish. Jess and myself, we're mostly day trading options, maybe a couple very short-term stock trades. And that's because that's the best action. That's the right action for that kind of environment. You're going to expect cyclical action and swings. That happens in futures and commodities and Bitcoin as well. So when the overall market is kind of going sideways, you got to have a plan for that. You also have to have a plan. Most of us just grew up on bull plans, long-term investments, long-term growth. That one's really kind of easy to slice up is when everything's booming, right? Boom cycles. But you can also have a bearish plan. So when the bear market comes in, Jess and myself and all the other Terrasoari members, we've all fashioned our own individual, unique bear plans. So there's all kinds of instruments you can buy you can make a buck when the markets are going down. It doesn't mean you have to revel in the misery that's probably happening with other people who may be losing money in a bear market. All you can do, all you can control is what your buys and sells are going to be. And there are plenty of methodologies and instruments to trade during a bear market to make a good killing. So that's what I would say. It starts with the overall market and what the trend of the market is, and have your trading plan be flexible to fall in line with what the overall market is doing.
Awesome. Yep, Jess, you want to say anything on that note?
Yeah, as far as the parameters and filters, I think they come in two forms. One is our own mindset. Where are we at mentally? What filters do we have that allow us to go, okay, today's a good day for me to be trading. Things are in line mentally. I'm where I need to be. And then having the right tools that allow you to kind of encapsulate that idea of what you're going for. Everybody has their own trading style. No two people can trade alike. So having those right tools that really kind of alert you to, hey, the conditions right now are low risk for this particular stock or this particular option or whatever security you're trading. It allows you to have that so you're not having to recreate it every single day. Having to recreate, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this, that, and the other thing, is offloading to a tool that's going to say, hey, here's this short list, Jason. These are the ones that meet your baseline criteria. Do that with an overall market analysis, and then always check your mind. Are you in the right place? Should you be trading? And having the mechanisms in place to be able to identify that for yourself.
Yeah, and so it sounds like underlying all that is just some simplicity and being able to cut through the noise and everything. How important would you all say simplicity is, and what I guess are some fundamental simplistic aspects of the tool that we're going to see here in just a second? Yeah,
it starts with the two co-founders of the Terrasoari community. Good friends, just amazing traders and amazing human beings. They designed that simplicity into the tools so that a foolish Marine and a dumb Ranger can actually get it done and be consistent with it. Simplicity is key because there's no other voices in your head. So there's no iffy, should I, shouldn't I? It's either, hey, the tool is painting, it's a bullish condition or a bearish condition. This thing's going up or down. It's got momentum or it doesn't. It's got volume or it doesn't. We'll look at that on the tools. But really, I'd add a word to that, Jason, man, elegance. The tools that these guys put their heads together to design systematically and test and back test in the Terrasoari program has the elegance of Well, why is the iPhone so popular, Jason? Matt?
Yeah, it's elegant. Yeah.
It's
Slick design. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a BlackBerry with like a bajillion buttons and a little roller ball, right? That was popular at one time, but this one showed through the iPhone because it was simple. It has one button and a couple on the sides, and it's very, very elegant in its design, and it's well thought out. Same thing with the Terrasoari tools. And really, guys, whatever you're using out there, simplicity, as Jason is saying, is your best friend because there's no kind of iffy gray area. Your objective in making your trading plan is to make your entry and exit rules as black and white as possible. It's either go or it's no go, to borrow from the military terminology. So simplicity in your trading plan as well. Jess, Matt?
Yeah, simplicity is so important. I mean, Jason, when you first started trading, did you ever get overwhelmed by all the data and information you're receiving to where you were unsure about what to do?
Yeah, definitely. And, a lot of that was the things that I was using, but also the noise of what to use and this and use that, and not having the knowledge to know what I should be adding until the chart's just crazy because you're adding so much into it.
And what did that do for your go, no go decision? I mean, how emotionally, kind of thinking back to that time frame with you, how were your decisions being made at that time then?
Yeah, so it's taxing. I had the go here, but the no go here, and then the go here, the no go, and I'm trying to mesh them all together in my mind. So I'm doing calculations, and all of a sudden the trade's gone.
Yeah, you got it. It's gone. And one of the things that we did in the military to put pressure, especially to new guys coming into the unit, is give them so many commands and conflicting information all at once to actually see what is their emotional response to that overwhelming moment of having all that data. And it causes us to do things that we normally wouldn't do when we're, in our right mind.
Right.
So by having simple and elegant tools that you can trust, that provide consistent information that has been back tested, that you've been able to back test yourself, that really brings home that confidence where things just kind of come into an alignment. So then you can make those really clear-headed decisions at the end of the day, because that's what's most important.
And just, your last podcast, Jason, you talk about brain waves. You talk about how this circuitry up top, and pat on the back, huge kudos to you for going there, because not too many traders who are actually in their own trading journey will explore stuff like that. So thank you for bringing that to all the listeners. As I said, the clearer your trading rules can be, the more likely you are to stick to them. And there is a psychological phenomenon tied to that. We call it either decision fatigue or options paralysis. If you don't have a clearly defined plan, your mind is going to wander. And what's most likely to happen in that case? Well, that dog brain back there, or the frog brain, even worse, the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, those impulses, those emotions are going to drive your trading decisions rather than a sound risk-managed plan. So that's the territory you don't want to get into. So don't give yourself so many options. Like, think about it, guys. How you go to Costco, how many different choices does Costco have for peanut butter? They got like one or two, right? That's intentionally done.
Yeah.
Right. You go to a Safeway and there's like 57 barbecue sauces up there. Costco's got one. Why do people like Costco? Well, that's one big factor, is because the simplicity in the choices. They don't have to, kind of be on the fence, straddle the fence on making those choices.
Yeah. And, one thing that you said as a great takeaway from all of that is confidence, because when you have that simplicity, it's confidence. So I want to tie this all in for the next question, because we've talked about what to cut out as far as noise for the market. And then you guys mentioned some tools to check yourself and know if you should play or stay on that day. All of that goes into the simplicity and having a tool that makes it simple so you can be confident in the big picture. I know this is something that you guys always mention, and it's treating trading like a business. With all of that being said and kind of meshing that all in, what is the concept of treating your trading like a business and having all of those things kind of as that part of that plan?
Yeah, I mean, this your previous guest, Miss Paula T. She sounds like a fantastic woman. She's got a sister or something. I'm single, so hook me up. I'd love to meet a girl with a trading mind like that. But really, Jess and I talk about this all the time. And Jess, you said yesterday, you got to have a purpose. You have a clearly defined purpose, and that's what Miss Paula T. also said the other day. What are you doing here? What is your core competency of your trading business? And in her words, I think she said, find one market and get really proficient at it, and then you can expand out. So don't try to be everything to everyone. That's no business plan. And don't try to just dabble and dip your toe into different markets. Clearly define what market you're going to get into and what right looks like as far as the trades you're going to take. Because as the CEO of our own trading business, we only have two business decisions that we really have to master: exiting and entering on time and at the right time. So that's really where it starts. Jess, man, you got anything to add to that, brother?
I think when we don't clearly define each aspect of our business, it allows more room for drift. It allows us to go, well, I wasn't quite sure about this, or I wasn't solidified in my mind about this, so I'm going to go over here, or I'm going to go over there, versus going, no, this is what I know works. This is my tested, proven strategy. It's going to help me reach my purpose because I've already defined what that is. This is where I'm heading. This is what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, man, between the news and geopolitical forces and your next door neighbor who's got tips and analysts and the banks and all this stuff, it is tempting. It is very tempting, especially for an inexperienced trader to go, oh, well, this guy must know what he's talking about. He's worth $100 billion or whatever it is. And they start making these connections that don't actually exist because we don't actually have all the information. We don't know why the analysts are saying what they're saying. They don't have our best interest in mind. We don't know why the newscasters are saying what they're saying. We don't know why Putin's saying what he's saying. He could do something totally different tomorrow. So being able to have a clearly defined purpose allows us to stay solid in our decision-making moving forward and become a little bit more unwavering to all the shiny objects that exist out there.
Awesome. That's excellent. So I want to go a little bit deeper there, but I want to stay high level before we dive in here. But one thing you mentioned, I think, is of great importance, and it was the game plan and really testing out and a system, a trading strategy. As a new trader, you may not know. You might, man, I don't know if this works. I don't know if I'm in a slump. What would you say is maybe just some parameters for testing out and developing a strategy versus, hey, this isn't working. I need to, change directions, and maybe even how that works in the software, but just general information. When is it time to abandon the ship on a trading strategy?
Well, okay. Yeah. To start it, before you know whether you're going to abandon it or not, you have to try it out, right? And take it for a spin. So to build it and craft it from scratch, that is probably the long road to get to consistent success in any market, to build it yourself. A nice, I hate the word, Jason, man, shortcut. But to shorten the learning curve, Jess and myself, we both got mentors. And I know you were an understudy as well from some pretty wise people. So really that's the best way to shorten the learning curve and to get a plan that's at least ready for you to adapt and make your own. That is an important part, is you have to feel a personal responsibility for the plan. It needs to be yours. Because as you talked about with Miss Paula T, respecting your rules, that's my word. You guys were talking about it in a different way, but respecting the rules of your trading plan comes from having buy-in yourself. They need to be yours, and that's why it needs to be your business. As far as just getting started, whether you start from scratch and take the long road, the kind of, Jess and I would call it the maverick route, right? Starting out on your own, or the tribal route, you get a mentor who, will take you under their wing that you trust. I'd say as far as the business-like approach is come at it as a professional. And Jess and myself, we both have special operations background. Jess was Army, unfortunately. I was Marines, but man, just having that silent professional approach where it doesn't matter what comes your way, you're going to handle it, right? You have that confidence, but you're also not there to play games. So guys, you got to take it seriously. So if you want any business to work out, you really have to come at it as a professional. And I would also say, get your organization together. You talk about it at length, Jason, in your podcast episodes about the trade log. Gosh, there's no better friend for a new trader or a trader that's struggling than some kind of documentation, some kind of recording mechanism to record all those best lessons learned and all those do's and don'ts that you learn along the way. Otherwise, they get just kind of lost in the ether, and you're doomed to repeat those mistakes again.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trade log is the truth data. That's how you actually know if that system works or doesn't work. If we don't write it down and actually see what the long-term outcome of it. So essentially being able to have a simulator that allows you to go back in time as far as possible to get the exposure to the most market conditions as possible. And then keeping it, being very disciplined in defining and executing on the specific parameters that you're going to enter in with and that you're going to exit in with. So, and not wavering from those as you fill out that trade log. And you'll know going through that process, okay, my purpose is whatever it is, create wealth, generate income, pay the mortgage, whatever the purpose is for why you're trading. Knowing what you need to obtain for that system to be successful. So I need to obtain X amount of dollars or X amount of performance or whatever to be able to have that system actually work for me that I define for my purpose. And then getting in that trade log and picking whatever 3 aspects. Let's just say, for example, I'm getting in when X, Y, Z. I'm getting out when 1, 2, 3, whatever it is.
Okay.
And sticking with it. And the key thing that I see happen, and I have seen happen multiple times over the years, is folks just jumping into paper trading. And paper trading is a wonderful opportunity to not actually have to pay, real money, pay tuition to the live market. But at the same time, you're only getting what that current market condition is for as long as you're testing that system. So if you're testing a system that is coming up out of COVID, well, hey, we were in a heck of a growth system. We're in a growth market. Things were booming. Things were moving up. Well, we haven't really been in that same kind of market since about March this year. So just because it worked there doesn't mean it's going to work on the next type of market conditions. So really being able to get a wide swath of different market conditions, that'll really kind of put that system to the test. And after so many trades, you actually analyze it and say, hey, is this taking me to where I want to go? Am I building a trading vehicle that's going to get me safely to where I want to go? Am I willing to assume the amount of risk that's associated with this trading vehicle? Yes. Okay, cool. Test it some more. No, then drop it. Maybe you need to make some tweaks here and there and kind of go back and analyze those trades to try and figure out, is there something I need to add in or take out? But be very precise with it. That's a really important thing, and not kind of helter-skelter about, I'm taking this from that and this from that and adding this and I'm going to change this midway through. That doesn't really help you gain that confidence in your specific trading system.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And the one thing you mentioned about the shortcut, if there is one, getting a mentor. And I want to elaborate on that, but something you had said that kind of just perked my ears up, and it was about the cycles of the market. You all have been trading a long time. Is there a time frame in which a trader has seen pretty much all the markets that are possible, or is it just ever changing? Even after, I had a guest on for 65 years experience last season. Has he not seen every market possible, or do you guys think there's a certain time where you're like, you know what, it's a cycle. It's kind of cyclical with what I'm going to see to some degree?
Those are broad categories that you could put it in. You got to draw the line somewhere. So for Jess and myself and our beautiful people at Terrasoari who did all the designing and programming, bull, bear, crab. So it's either up strongly, down strongly, or it's somewhere in the middle, kind of cycling. So those are the broad definitions. If you drill down from there, man, we've seen all different kinds of bear markets. So let's take it to the software. If you're good with that, Jason, I can just talk over that.
Yeah.
So here on the screen, guys, just a quick talk on, this is a multi-decade chart. Each candle is a weekly candle on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And all of our tools and rules are back tested to the year 1900 to get really good, quality data over a long sample size. So we can go back, we can check out any, let's just stick with the bear markets, because right now you can see here on the right-hand side, we're currently in red conditions, red band called the Z band on the candles themselves. and then a red signal on the bottom. That's called trigger. So we've got red momentum and a bias towards selling. So we're in a bearish market right now. The COVID dump, if you guys are familiar with that, you saw what happened in the stock market. We lost about 33% of the value of the Dow Jones in just about 4 weeks. So it was a rapid decline. That is one heck of a fast kind of slope or steep slope to the downward move. You can see here, even in the bearish conditions we got here, we're not quite at that same trajectory. So you're definitely going to handle, or ideally, you're looking at these two and be like, they're not the same kind of species of bear market. I'm going to handle them a little bit differently. So maybe a little bit longer term plays when the trend is not so steep. Same thing with bull markets. We had that steady rise coming out of COVID bottom there. And you can see the green is painting the nice steady move up over about a year and a half. But we could take this back and we could look at kind of the bear market that ensued 2008 here. Decline and then step back up, decline, step back up. But, it's kind of a stair step. So that's of a different nature. You'd probably want to handle that one differently as the events unfold. And if you're a little bit older, maybe you look at the 1987 crash we had here. It happened so fast. This was the options crash in 1987. It happened so fast, the red paint didn't even come on for us. So sometimes you're going to get those weird flash crashes that are completely different animal right there. So that's what I'd say is yeah, they're we put them in the same category, but they're not all kind of created equal, Jason, man.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. And so this looks powerful. Can you just tell us what you're seeing in the market now, maybe from the fourth quarter of last year to now? Just how you're seeing it and how this software is helping you keep it simple.
Absolutely. I think right here, this week, we saw quite a bit come out. It was the Thanksgiving week of last year, November 2021. And Jess, man, we had that every year on Friday of Thanksgiving. We always have that half day. It's a strange day in the stock market. So Jess, man, what was the story that day and the following month after that, basically?
Black Friday, and then it just started going down after that. It's kind of the I'll say the scare, the sellers themselves started getting a little bit more emboldened during that process, and we retested that top, and that failed at that higher, that resistance, and then we've been going down ever since. Even though still staying cyclical, we've been cyclical pretty consistently since March. And now it's just got more of a bear lean to it. And to Jason, kind of your question of, have we seen all the market conditions that are out there? They all have their different flavor. The external forces may change, but it's by trading in a behavior driven manner, it really doesn't change for us outside of bull, bear, or crap. So we're not trying to predict or hedge. That could, if you're trying to do Forex trading, you're trying to predict currencies over, and the euro right now in relation to the yen or something like that, then yeah, that might be something to where you're trying to hedge that. But by being behavior driven, bull, bear, and crab, and really developing a trading system for each one of those three different types of markets to be able to take advantage of it. So with the Z band on the Q, okay, statistical bias to the upside, buyers are coming in, fantastic. Okay, that's a certain plan. When we see the cloud go off or the Z-band go off, that's undecided territory. So for me in my process, that's high risk. It's just meaning that, hey, I'm not willing to put my money at risk to interact with the market because it's uncertain right now. And being able to keep that really simple in your mind. So it's just a hands-off type situation, or it's, I'm going to go with my bear plan, or I'm going to go with my bull plan. Right now we've been in bear plan conditions and they've been doing great.
Yeah. And just kind of piecing it together, here's the S&P 500, right? These four major indexes, the S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ, which is the Q, as Jess said, and the Russell 2000, the IWM. We call them the four horsemen in Terrasoari. Because when they're all moving together, that is the motion in the ocean that I was talking about. Get in line with the overall market trend. So yeah, we had been, if we look at the monthly time scale, we had really been growing. since the bottom here, which was COVID, you see that big volume spike, the red turns off and the green turns on here on the S&P on the monthly timescale. So it was a great growth period. And then drilling down to the fourth quarter, like you said, and taking it up to present day, well, we did have some growth. It became really choppy after that Thanksgiving kind of Black Friday, and kind of went to sleep for December. And then if we go down to the daily kind of view, here we are. Here's the first of the year. January 3rd was the first trading day of the year. We really started to see the selling actually happen that day. Took a little break, and then big time downward move here in most of January, about those middle 2 weeks of January. Kind of caught some support, and the buyers were there. And then pretty much in February, we had another downward run. And now here we are in present day. This is off of yesterday's data for March the 9th. We're in bearish conditions again. It's going red. And I'm sure we'll look at today's market again at some point, Jason. But, the indexes are down again today. They're having another strugglish day. So what does that tell me or Jess? Well, we're not trying to predict. That's the number one thing that I'd say. If you're a new trader out there, guys, don't try to predict what's going to happen next. And don't trust anybody's opinion who says they know exactly what's going to happen next. You don't know. You have to be agile and ready for anything. So that's why Jess and myself will wait for the behavior patterns of these indexes and these stocks to show themselves. The trend starts, we get in there, enter into strength, and exit into strength before the trend is over. That's how you can be systematic with it, or at least that's how Jess and myself have tested and become profitable in the live market. So just the indicators are your best friend, and keep it simple. Just go with the behavior you see in front of you on the charts. And right now, all those underlying conditions between the Russia-Ukraine crisis, inflation, everything's putting downward pressure on these markets. So it makes sense that we'd be seeing some red action here.
Yeah. And so two questions pop up just looking at this. First off, I don't see any section where there's maybe the moon phase or some astrology aspect to the software. So I've heard you guys mention behavior and conditions twice now. Why is it important to have something that's based on the data that you're looking at versus, anything else, the conditional game plan that I believe that you've talked about?
Yeah.
Behavior driven.
Well, that's the golden question. Well, of course, everybody wants to know what the future brings, but there's only one thing we can trust, guys. The truth data, we stole that from the military, but the truth data is what you see in front of you on the charts. So, yeah, okay, you can turn on the news or a podcast, and Jason, I'm sure, you've heard somebody say, well, yeah, the big hedge funds already priced in the Fed's next rate hike, right? So they're basically explaining away what they've seen on the charts in front of them. Well, it's not worth any of our times to try to explain why big institutions or small retail traders are doing what they're doing. All Jess and myself and the Terrasoari community care about is what are they actually doing? Their behavior, their buying and selling will tell you what their sentiment is. There's no reason to break out the tea leaves or the zodiac charts and stuff because you don't need that. If people are selling the S&P and all the stocks within it, you're going to see that right here on the chart because they're going to hit the sell button over and over and over again, and you're going to have more red showing than green. And that's as simple as it gets.
It provides why behavior and why a consistent set of rules. It provides a consistent target to make decisions on. If you're trying to hedge or predict and move here or there, it's tough to really be consistent in the market. I may even argue that it's impossible. A lot of the folks that hedge or go big in one direction and they make a ton of money, they got lucky at the end of the day, because if they do that again, they could lose that same amount of money. And Rob and I and Terrasoari community is about consistency over time. So by being able to go off of behavior and off of a consistent rule set, it provides a consistent target with which to shoot at. So you really get to make that decision because the parameters are the same. The external forces may be different, but at the end of the day, the behavior is either going up, it's going down, or it's sideways. And being able to be consistent with a consistent rule set builds consistency over time. And that's why it's really important for the behavior aspect.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but by the eye test here, outside of that flash crash that you showed, it seems like this indicator isn't lagging as much as a lot of indicators. Is that true? Am I seeing that correctly? And if that's so, how can that be?
It's in real time. As far as the math, I mean, you're asking the wrong guy. We'd have to go to the actual founders of the community who designed and tested this software. But no, it is happening every day. So as I said, the rightmost candle here on the S&P is yesterday's. So we still have today's market data to come out. So this evening, if we're stock trading, Jess, myself, we're trading ETFs or stocks, we'll wait for the market day to finish, and then the next daily candle will come out. And with that daily candle, we'll see what happened with the actual buying and selling. We'll make our decisions off of that. And the paint on the chart, which is really all indicators are, will be dry by then. Right now it's wet, but yeah, it's dry at the end of every day. If you're using a daily chart, each week we're on Thursday, today's a Thursday. So this candle right here, we're missing Thursday and Friday's data. It's an incomplete candle. So this paint is still wet. When the paint dries, Jess and myself will evaluate it, and that's also what the tool is evaluating for us. It's not telling you, it'll never tell you, hey, get in here, get out here, but it is its own trading system essentially, and it's telling you, hey, when the conditions are remarkably low risk for the downside or for the upside.
Yeah, bringing that consistency by waiting for a specific time period. Like Rob was saying, the paint's still wet. But if you're day trading, say on the 1 minute chart, then that paint is coming every second, and it's calculating, it's doing its thing. And at the end of that 1 minute candle, that paint becomes dry. So it's tuned to the time frame that you prefer to trade. And it really allows to build that consistency framework and allows you to trade multiple time frames. In other words, generating multiple streams of income or wealth growth using the same parameters because it is consistent throughout.
Jason, I got a specific trade example on these charts. I can just show you real quick. We can walk through.
Yeah, that would be great.
So guys, if you're
time frame?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
I was just saying, what time frame are you going to show us?
Oh, it's on the queue. I traded the NASDAQ here in January, so I'm going to take it to the daily candles here. And guys, if you're just listening to this, maybe fire up and subscribe to Jason's YouTube channel and check this out because we're looking at charts here. But here we are. We already talked about it. The first couple days of January, the selling really started, Jason.
Okay.
And you see a couple of red candles coming in there. The NASDAQ is really full of more like growth and technology companies. So it had, a little bit more of a elastic and volatile fall than the other indexes did. But that being said, we had the red indicator came on here January the 4th. It's not a breakout yet because we had just been in that territory 380. I don't know if it's just cycling or not, so I'm not pulling the trigger there. But it does set a bottom here. If you look at January the 10th, we had a volume spike come in, and it set a bottom there. Really was right around 375 is where it opened. It got as low as 370 there. But essentially, as soon as I saw it break the previous bottom, which we can't see on this chart, I can pull it up right here real quick. The previous bottom was back there in December. I'm in there on QQQ because it's breaking to a new low.
Okay.
These couple days were not fun because, there was a little bit of correction and my timing seemed off. But basically, I trusted the indicator. And this Z-band stayed on and narrowed a little bit, but it stayed on really well as the volume kind of dried up. And then here on the 12th, we had the selling resumed. And by the end of it, this big volume spike here on the 24th, that Monday, I closed out by doubling my position. Now, this is a put trade for you guys out there. This is not a short where I'm just selling shares of QQQ, the NASDAQ 100. I'm trading a put, a longer term put. So that will gain value exponentially in a shorter amount of time if you know how to handle options. So right here, within 2 weeks, it was basically 14 days in the trade, and I doubled my money, more than doubled. So that's just the power of one indicator and a little bit of volume and chart analysis, which is really not that hard to practice. It's not rocket science. As long as you got the right tools, you can measure your risk pretty succinctly with these.
Yeah, and so I understand that. Not to a full degree, but it makes sense. It seems pretty simplistic. So you woke up, you just happened to find this chart, you found a great setup, and then you were off and running.
Yeah, no, good question. I've been eyeballing it for days before that. Basically, when that red indicator came on, most of the indexes coincided with that same time frame. Like here on the Russell 2000, we're starting to get red. And as a day trader, I'm in the market every single day, so I'm watching these indexes, and I know, okay, well, we just had a big selling day. Let me start taking a look at some of these charts for a potential entry point. At that point, I have a checklist of rules, and it's super duper simple. We talk about trading plans and trading systems. That's all it is. It's entry rules and exit rules. So as soon as all my check boxes are checked, it's go territory. I can't find a reason not to trade it. But the key is not jumping the gun. I think a lot of, especially early in my trading career, man, I'd get real aggressive. I'd bring that Marine mentality to trades like this, and I would be like, oh, it is definitely going down right there. And I may get caught in some nasty turnarounds because it's not breaking out to a new low. So rules like a breakout or having volume, power, getting in line with the overall market. This is the stuff that I coach traders to these days, and Jess as well. But these are the principles that make up your trading plan, your entry and exit rules, and you just got to stick to them. So as soon as the conditions are right, boom, easy day, get in there. And when they're not, get out because the risk is too high.
Yeah, so makes a lot of sense. And I just want to ask this again, because I see the list that you have up there. And I know as a trader, you're coming in, there's tons of markets. How do you narrow it down? How do you come up with that? Either the list that you have there, how are you from all the opportunities finding, great wins like this one?
Yeah, that's a great call. So those ones that I had in that list, those are just some overall market tickers. These are the 4 horsemen and then a couple of volatility indexes. So that's just this part of my organizational skills with the Terrasoari software is I have these little watch lists, and I can set them up however I want. So you can see I have a bunch of those. As far as getting the tickers to trade, well, Jess, man, we can start with the master list here, which is, Terrasoari, the founders, they keep the lights running and basically they keep the data flowing for the software. So they have access through our data feed through 9,400 stocks. Jess, you've been trading for 2 decades, brother. When was the last time you combed through a list of 9,000 stocks?
I would not be a trader if I needed to come through a list of over 9,000 stocks. I don't have that kind of time, nor do I want to spend that kind of time trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So, all right. So forget all that. I mean, it's good for reference if you want to look up a ticker, something obscure, but we have these called smart lists.
Okay.
And a smart list is a really, really nice filtration tool to tell you, hey, you better want to put this on your radar because it might be a good addition to your portfolio. It's just a maybe, right? It's just like if we are running a trading business, Jason, it's like every stock or index or ETF that your money is at work with, think of that as an employee with your trading business. So if you're hiring somebody for any kind of business, do you want the highest caliber candidates or are you just going to take anybody off the street?
No, definitely highest candidates.
Exactly. So this is essentially like I don't know about copyright issues, but this is like a ZipRecruiter, right? Just feeding you different candidates for your trading business. So okay. I take a look at these 5 stocks right here, and that's a much more consumable list to go through each evening based off of the rules that I put in. And those are really, really simple too. You can set your filters to be however, tailor them to your rules and your risk tolerance. But what I've got for rules fed me these 5 as of yesterday's data. Wow. So each evening, Jess and I will log in, we'll check what the data update showed, and maybe we have 5 today, maybe we have 17 tomorrow, maybe 12 the next day. It dances around a little bit. And for these rules, since they're growth rules, you might get 0 if it's a bearish market. So that should tell you something too, like stay out.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because I know there might have been someone out there saying, yeah, well, it's easy. If I've been trading as long as these guys, I'd be able to find those kind of wins too. But the software is really breaking this down to some potentials for the day.
Yeah, it doesn't. You can create your own rules, so it's as customizable, Or like we've been talking about kind of being in a cyclical market. Rob, will you pull up the cyclical list? So within the software itself, there is already some pre-formatted lists that allow somebody that's coming in that say, hey, I'm really interested in taking advantage of cycles or breakouts. And you can really dive into those and trust, because you'll be able to see that pattern throughout. So this is the cyclical list here, basically for people that are just listening in. At the top, there's a red bar, and at the bottom of the chart, within a certain range, is a green bar. And essentially the green bar at the bottom is accumulation. Hey, this is where, if we're cyclically trading, this is where it's low risk to accumulate. And that red bar at the top is potentially a sell zone, or just know that there's a bias to a turnaround at that point. And so it really allows you to just jump in, plug and play, and get after it. And the cool part is, with the simulator that is with Terrasoari for stocks, options, and Forex, is you can actually get in there and test some of this and prove it to yourself. Because at the end of the day, you having confidence in what you're using is going to take you a lot further than just going off of what somebody else is saying. You can actually start to kind of develop rules around this. But it's a pretty clear indicator, or a good representation of some of the individual lists within the Terrasoari software that keeps it extremely simple. And on the left there on the list, Rob, so right now there's 66 stocks in there, but I don't know if you have it on yours, but if you pull over, you'll see the little green balls and the red balls. And if you can organize by that and say, okay, out of these 66 stocks, there's only 4 that are in the accumulation zone. So we took how many ever thousands of stocks that is currently being monitored and whittle it down to 4 that would be potential candidates for an employee in a cyclical system, or in your own cyclical, trading business, to be able to take advantage of that opportunity.
Wow. And so, you mentioned the ability to back test with the system here. It seems simple. So I want to talk about just overconfidence. When would you all say, this could be for any system, any trading platform, when is a good time for a trader to know that they should go live? They should put their real money in the market and come off of the simulation or the paper trading?
It starts with the trade log. If you have a mentor, they can give you their honest opinion of how you're doing, how proficient you are. But the evidence presents itself if you're keeping a good trade log and you're tracking those simulated practice trades. Once you get to a certain level of effectiveness, and really that's the word I would use, is effectiveness. What is the desired effect? More gains than losses. Okay, well, how much more? What's your ratio? Jess and myself in our coaching in the Terrasoari community, we it's 80% to 20% gains to losses is the cutoff for graduation from the coaching course, and it's achievable. So if you can get that proficient in the simulator, then you can consider yourself ready to at least enter the paper trading market, if not cash trading shortly thereafter. And it doesn't have to get any more complex than that. Either you've drilled in enough to be ready for combat, stealing from the military. I think I've asked you this before, Jason. How do you get a handful of snot-nosed Marines to be able to set up an 81 millimeter mortar in about 30 seconds and get rounds on target? Going from a completely broken down weapon system to actually firing and being lethal with it. Well, you drill over and over again. You correct mistakes along the way, and you don't accept anything lesser than proficiency. So that's how you do it. You just need to have that ability to be responsible to yourself and your trading system. Again, just the reason why you're doing this, the purpose of the whole system. And then you're ready. Definitely don't rush into it. I'd say this is a measure twice, cut once territory, because you can get maybe 100 trades under your belt and in your log, and you'll feel like you've accomplished a lot.
Right.
But really, you probably just know enough to be dangerous and to be a risk to yourself and your trading account, which is counterproductive to what we're here to do.
For sure. Jess, what's your opinion on a trader getting off paper?
I think a lot of it is we are kind of conditioned to try and make things happen quickly. And, there's a quote, nature grows slowly, yet all is accomplished. feels really painful to sit on your front porch and watch the grass grow. But every weekend you wake up and, man, you got to get that lawnmower out and cut that grass back because it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So not trying to rush it, because at the end of the day, if we really keep this in perspective, it's not about making money today. It's about consistently making money over time. And so, man, who cares if it takes you 6 months or 6 years to develop a system that's going to pay you for the rest of your life? As long as you have your mental faculties and you've got the ability to click the button, then you've got something that's going to pay you for the rest of their life. People go to college for 4 years to get an entry level position at some sort of healthcare or some sort of engineering facility or something like that. We spend so much time in school just to get the basics to be able to get started. Man, this endeavor, if it's done with focus and discipline and the dedication that it deserves and treating it like a business, man, if it's 6 months, if it's 2 years, if it's 6 years, it doesn't matter, especially if you're putting that time, energy, and effort into the simulator and into paper trading. You know, a lot of people get hung up and have to end up kind of hanging up the trading shoes, so to speak, because they jump into cash too quick and their account doesn't have the ability to shovel out enough money to learn all the lessons then get back on track. So you end up back at zero and you're like, dang it, I learned a lot, but I can't even afford to interact in this environment anymore. I got to go back to a 9-to-5 or figure out something else. So being patient with yourself, it will happen. One of the greatest pieces of advice, I have a tendency to push harder, do more, push faster, all that kind of stuff. And it's brought a lot of success in a lot of areas of life. Right. But in trading, it doesn't. It should hit you in the face. It should be so glaringly obvious that you're ready for the next step before you take the next step, instead of trying to reach for that next step, because then your trading is going to start reaching and you're going to start trying to push the boundaries of a system that you've already shown works, and you start to operate outside of these boundaries because you want more faster. And that not only goes from going from the simulator to paper trading to live trading, but when you go into live trading, hey man, don't go in guns a-blazing with your whole account. Start small, really just kind of take it in an incremental process through, exposing your money to the market, and know where your ceiling is for risk. What are you willing to accept as a loss? Or what are you willing to not have in cash anymore to have actually exposed to the market? And just be patient. It should be obvious. If it's not obvious, then you're not ready.
Yeah, that's great advice. And so I want to talk about some community aspects and mentors that you mentioned a few times, but I don't want to leave this software for anyone who's curious about this, because you showed some incredible things. Just in general, what are some of the other great features that the software has, and what would you all just say makes it stand apart from, the YouTube ads that we're getting every day saying, come try this software and this software? What really makes this stand apart?
Well, fintech, financial technology, is a growing kind of sphere, right? Like like you said, there's ads everywhere for financial technology, charting software, that kind of thing. What we've got here, and Ms. Polity was talking about Mark Douglas. We've got our own two Mark Douglases. They're the co-founders of Terrasoari, and I'm sure he's a brilliant guy. But these guys, we know them. First of all, they're our mentors, and they have the know-how. So one of them got his start in the 80s. He started trading. He started as a financial advisor. Went to commodities and real estate, and and then options is where he settled in. He's the older of the two. He started programming his own trading software, which was the kernel of what we see right here, back in the mid-90s. And he really started painting his masterpiece in 2003. So almost 20 years now, he's been working on refining this. And he basically baked into the software here, Jason, we've got all kinds of, principles from some of the best books for a trader to read. Reminiscences of a Stock Operator by Lefebvre, or How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market by Nicholas Darvis. All of those principles and all those books and all the knowledge he accumulated, he started programming into his own software, and he started sharing it with other traders. And our other co-founder came along and really simplified the design and the automation and the basically the layout of the software so that it's user friendly. So we have this beautiful union of these two geniuses coming together, and that's why the name was Trader Genius and now Terrasoari, who basically have baked all that trading logic and all those lessons learned into a simple interface that we can use on any given day. And that's why Terrasoari is a club, not a business, because it's open to anybody who wants to improve their trading or just get started trading. So yeah, that's the number one thing I'd say is the essence of the software itself. There's millions of lines of code in this that our own grassroots traders programmed into the software. So this is not some corporation. In fact, I think, Jess, they had like offers like in the 7 digits, something like that, from some of the big institutions to buy and license this software. But they said no. Why, Jess? Because they were basically going to shelve it and not actually use it or something like that.
They were going to reverse engineer the proprietary indicators that are in there, put it into their software, and then put the actual software that was created by our founders in a vault so nobody could have it. And
oh, wow.
Ultimately, they just said it's too powerful and they don't want anybody else to have it. You know, probably the number one question that I see through our meetup groups and people coming new to the community is, man, I've got this software, I've got to use this brokerage platform, and I have endless amount of tools and indicators. I don't even know where to start. Well, the co-founders of the software, they took all those tools and tested them all the way back to 1900. What brings consistency across all market timeframes and in all different market conditions? What allows us to consistently evaluate risk? And then built on some of those ideas, as well as doing all the institutional research. That's a big thing that's kind of missing with a lot of other things, is the institutions, they got people that pour through these, these documents, these thousands and thousands of pages of, hey, different market conditions, different market effects, all that kind of stuff. Well, our own co-founders did that. So institutional knowledge is in here, as well as all the tools that were tested that you get at your normal brokerage account. Because at the end of the day, most softwares, not all of them, but a lot of them, especially the mainstream stuff, it's just repackaging the same tools. They really don't have anything different with EMAs or stochastics or RSIs. Well, we know what works and what doesn't work to bring consistency over time. And then based on all that information kind of coming together, you see the development of these very simple indicators to interact with. For instance, the Z-band has about 14 different components to it, from algorithms, trader logic, all the stuff that I just talked about are all put in this and done by a master trader who has been using these tools for their own success and now willing to share it with a benevolent intent to other members that want to come on board and take the software for a ride. So it's a fantastic tool. And at the end of the day, we are in new market conditions. So we have modern tools for a modern market. If everybody's using the same tools through a normal brokerage house, who has the edge?
Right.
You don't have the edge. And we don't know why things are moving in a direction or not. And we're not seeking to try and explain them. We're showing you through a risk lens of behavior, which is a very unique perspective.
Yeah. So what would you both say is your favorite feature or tool within the software? If you could narrow it down to one or maybe two.
Well, I part of my duties are I'm head coach of the Terrasoari community. So my bread and butter is the simulator. Yes, simulated trading, paper trading is simulated trading. That's good. And as Jess said, that's a really helpful tool. But having a self-contained simulator where you can actually buy and close and be able to practice your 100% trading plan over a variety of market conditions historically is irreplaceable value right there. And so I'll still show you the stock trading simulator right here. We can just pick a ticker. Anybody throw out a name of a company? There's a big company.
Apple.
Okay, kick ass. So you would search for that in the master list here. And okay, so we got Apple. You can put that down. It'll bring up a weekly chart. Okay. And if you're a stock trader or you want to do longer term trades, I would just say, hey, okay, close your eyes and go backwards in time about a decade, right? Give yourself, this is what Jess and I do for stock traders who are just curious or want to get going with a simulator, get some reps under their belt. So you go back about a decade. Yeah, we know Apple's going to grow, and you can test this over a bunch of different stocks and sectors. But basically, I'll just put this most powerful indicator on the Z band and some volume, and that's all. Just go. So go forward 1 week at a time. These are weekly candles. And when you have a fresh Z band, like we just happened on right here, maybe you start out with that. That is your simple, singular rule for trading. I'm only going to trade when the Z band turns on, and when the Z band turns off, I'm going to exit my positions. So all you would do here is enter in your trade log. Jess and I use the closing price, so 12.85 would be your entry right there. And you would just say, okay, 12.85, I bought notionally 100 shares of Apple. Move forward a week at a time. Okay, right there, volume spike or whatever, Z-band is still on. Maybe you want to take your profits. So it closes right here, 14.05. And in the span of 2 weeks of real time, you just made a nice, really nice gain on the breakout from Apple. Okay, wow. Close out that trade. And now, as you say, with all your trade log kind of professing, Jason, the virtues of it. Now, what just happened? Why did you enter? Why did you exit? And write down all those reasons that a good business owner would write down about why they're executing their business in this way. And you'll find your patterns. Your patterns of behavior will get teased out through that. So I'd say my number one love with the software, I don't mind using that word, is the simulator plus the trade log combination. And that in and of itself, guys, if you're interested in that, you can go to Terrasoari.com and check out our coaching program. It's world-class. Hopefully you can tell, like, we come with a professional approach to actually coaching you. So bring a professional approach to the training as well. But it is this simple. Wow. The real fabric of it is, can you be disciplined enough to do enough reps in this somewhat boring simulator until you are proficient and you meet those performance goals, and then you're ready for the live market. So yeah, that's my favorite functionality, Jess, man.
Yeah, one quick thing is what's amazing is how far it goes back. I think that's pretty awesome. I can only in my software go back maybe 1 or 2 future contracts, so maybe 6 months at the most. So that's incredible. But yeah, go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, just on note with that, with the simulator, for the stocks, you can go back as long as it's been on, as long as chart's been in existence for it. It's been the stock market. You can go all the way back, and in the day trading simulator, you can go back over 10 years, every single day recorded, and so you can get a lot of practice before you ever jump in that live market. My favorite feature once somebody's up and running is the ability to filter, the ability to funnel down and kind of offload to the software your preferences that you've already developed. So once you've built that vehicle, say, if you're building an old car in your garage, sure, you're in there tinkering with the engine and the transmission and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, once you get it up and running, you want to be able to just jump in, put your keys in, and go get milk from the grocery store. This software allows that to happen in such a way that is so elegant that doesn't require a lot of time. I personally spend about 45 minutes, 4 days a week day trading. I spend an hour or two weekly stock trading, and I spend an hour or two a month investing. And that's it. Because these filters show you, hey, you already know this stuff works. Now, computer, show me the things that I want to see. Boom, here it is. And then you can make your kind of fine-tuned decision, actually getting eyes on the specific list that pops up. Whether you're day trading or long-term investing, that has that functionality in there. So it keeps it really simple, really straightforward, and you don't have to commit a lot of time after you've already built out that trading vehicle. Wow.
Well, that's great. And so I want to just kind of jump back to the high level as we start to wind it down here. I know that I spent a lot of time seeking out individuals like you two, who are knowledgeable, who I can learn from. You guys always talk about the power of mentors. So I want to ask this in a few different ways. One, you guys created this community and, are part of the growing community where individuals now can easily find a mentor. That's not always been the case. So I want to talk about just you guys, life with or without finding the mentor. How did you come across the community and a mentor? And why is the community and even some aspects of it of Terrasoari, and am I saying it correctly? Terrasoari, right? Terrasoari, yeah. Why is the community so important?
Yeah, a lot of ways to go with that, my brother. my backstory, 2014, I ran into one of our co-founders in Hawaii. He's a former Marine as well. So dumb luck. I had no trading experience or whatever. I didn't seek him out. He just fell into my lap. Jess, man, your story of initial involvement, it was a friend of a friend, right?
Yeah. A friend of a friend, who knew him, introduced me to the software and then introduced me to him. Yeah.
Got it. And, sometimes it takes that. So guys, and Jason, thank you for having us on, because this kind of word of mouth is the number one way a great place like Terrasoari can grow. We know what the value is of the tools and the community and the education that we offer. The community itself is founded on 4 really, really simple principles, but you don't find them in everybody. So it's a pretty exclusive place to be. Trust, integrity, responsibility, and respect. And that's not a lot to ask of a person, but these days, maybe it's hard to find that.
It can be. So
really what that means is the currency, the fabric of our community is high character individuals. I get that vibe from you, Jason, and hopefully you get that same thing from us. Like, we're coming from
Definitely.
a really good, helpful place. And that's what we really, the minimum requirement for our members to be a part of this community. Benevolence and coming from that place of wanting to lift up the people around you. That's the way traders should be, in my opinion, is we should all be collaborative and we should all be sharing lessons learned. My mentors passed that down to me, and the people I mentor these days, I pass that right on down to them with a little bit of additional knowledge and value and skill level. So we can keep that ball rolling and keep the exponential growth and capability as the generations of Terrasoari continue down the road in perpetuity.
Ultimately, a mentor brings possibly decades of knowledge, of knowing where the sticky points are, being able to be that outside looking in, saying, hey, do you realize you're starting to drift? Or do you realize that these emotions are creeping in? It's amazing what Rob and I can pull from a trade lawyer. I can't tell you how many students have been like, how did you get that from that? The trade log, and especially the remarks and reflection side, really starts to allow you to tease out and pull out these things that we know is important, but somebody new who doesn't have a mentor has to figure those out for themselves through that process. For
Right.
Somebody saying, hey, I've been here, I've seen this. This is kind of where you're headed. Is this what you want more of? No, it's not what I want more of. Okay, well then this is the course corrections to be able to get back on track, to be able for you to be able to obtain more of what you want. For me, I have been trading for a decade and a half before I met my mentor, almost 2 decades before I met my mentor. And I never thought about making trading and investing a full-time gig. And it wasn't until that I actually had that moment and went through that training where it aligned all these different elements for me to say, oh, this can really happen. I'm actually getting the consistency I've been looking for. Yeah, I was successful, but my success was a varying degree of success throughout that process. So I never felt confident enough to say, hey, I'm making this a full-time gig. I was able to do that specifically because of the coaching that I got, the mentorship that I got, and then now what me and Rob pass on. And really it's that just passing on of that information through those processes. It really makes a huge, huge difference, and has changed my life for sure.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And, coming from an athletic background, I understand the value of coaches. They can push you further than you can. They can see potential you can't. And one thing that you guys, it turned a light bulb on when you said it. And I want to just pass this on to the community, is that the Trading Ascension community, is that you don't always need a community or a coach when things are going good. But it's when things get bad is when this is super important, and those times where you're just in a slump. It's where you're going to the grocery store and you turn the car on after losing the trade, and you just haven't opened the garage door yet. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and continue on with my life. So it's really important when things are down. And so on that note, I just want 2 things. One, what would be you all advice for implementing change? Because, sometimes we may recognize it in ourselves. Of course, a coach is going to recognize it a little bit faster and better. And then you say, okay, this is the change I need to make. And then the next day you may struggle to do it. So two things. One, what's an action step that the listeners can take, maybe implement today to actually implement change? And then two, how does a mentor and a coach help them implement change a little bit faster?
Yeah. The number one thing is use a trade log. If you're not logging your trades, you don't have to make much of a change at all, or at least in the action steps. That would be use a trade log. We can provide one. We provide one at meetups all the time. Hit us up, Terrasoari.com. Jason, you'll link to that. We'll give you a free trade log to use. It's really not that complicated. It's just a spreadsheet. It's just the willpower to use it and to hold yourself accountable. That's where the real meaningful change happens. Whether you have a mentor or you don't, having that conversation with yourself on paper, written or typed, that you normally wouldn't have between your own ears. It's important to use yourself as a sounding board and to really explore what's going right, what's going wrong. It's like a debrief after a military operations. So you're always going to dissect and analyze what happened. Hey, what can we do better next time? That's the purpose of a trade log. So that's your action step is, I tell my students all the time in quasi-marine mode, log your freaking trades. But so that's the action step. And then really the mechanism of change is awareness. Realize that's the currency you're working with your trade log. Awareness of those habits. You talked about it in your last podcast, brainwaves. So I'd say gain awareness until there's really no new discoveries happening. And then you've got a process that's pretty much complete. And really, if you want to put it in neural pathways, practice and use that trade log until the only neural pathway that's left is the one that's consistently effective in your trading system. That's it.
Awesome.
We typically learn in two different ways, by doing or through wisdom, right? The actions of our consequences or wisdom. That trade log is that reflection, that self-accountability of action, consequence, reflection. That's extremely important. You combine a mentor with that, you bring wisdom to the occasion that can provide you with the awareness so that it speeds up that loop, because you've got somebody that's already been there, done that, identifying stuff that you're not even aware of, while at the same time you are identifying your own behaviors and you're working with yourself and your system. And those two things combines like rocket fuel for success. As long as you have the right mentor and you're going about it and treating it like a business, then you can really get amplification of the progress that you wouldn't otherwise had you not had a mentor.
That's awesome. Excellent. Well, that is phenomenal. I think every second I spend around you guys, I grow as a person and a trader, and I know that value is going to be transferred through the information here. So if you're listening on the podcast, you can see the visual, you can see the software on YouTube. Go check it out. I'll put links to wherever it's showing up on the internet so you guys can all find it, as well as getting to the website if you have more interest. Phenomenal events that might be happening in a city near you. So I'll make sure you have all the information that you need to connect with these guys and tap into that wisdom. So huge takeaways from this show. I'm so thankful for you guys for joining me. So thank you again for joining me on the Trading Ascension Podcast.
Heck yeah. Been great, brother. Good to see you and see you on Saturday. Yeah.
Yes.
I hope this was helpful. It's always fun to create this content with the goal of adding value to your life. Thank you for listening. If you benefited from our time together, please share this podcast with other traders you care about and other humans you care about. You can check out more thought-provoking talks around personal and spiritual growth every Sunday and every Thursday, and on the YouTube channel as well. Be sure to go to tradingascension.com and download the free ebook to help you become a more mindful trader, and join the subscriber list where you'll get upcoming news, including information on the mastermind groups that are reopening, and they're going to help you quickly and drastically improve at whatever trading system you currently use. One last thing, always remember to be the hero of your story.